Hello and welcome to Raising Those Spirits. I'm Steve,
I'm Sam.
and we've made it all the way to episode 17. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for staying with us.
Oh yeah.
So,
So how you doing, Steve?
uh, uh, last week in Dad's Digress, we talked a lot about our kids, and
We always do.
totally jinxed me because we
Oh
talked
no,
about
what happened?
my son is now in a big boy bed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I talked about how he got out of the crib once, but we were hoping,
And
and I
now
was
he's
fighting it. And yeah, no, he just. So we. Did I tell you he like made it across the house?
all away?
All the way. So
Like,
yeah, he got out
oh
of his
my
crib
God.
once, and I told you that. So we're up in our office during his bedtime, and we're hanging
Hmm.
out, and we just hear at the. So our house, for the listeners, we have two separate second stories of our house.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like a split.
yeah, because it like there was the original house, which is two stories, but then they did an addition and built like a garage with an office above it, and there's a breezeway connecting them. But there's no second floor to the breezeway, so the second floors don't connect. So our living space is on one second floor, our workspace is on another second floor, and you got to go downstairs and through the whole house. So we put him in his crib for his nap time in the middle of a workday, and we're up in our office, and we just hear "Mama, Mama," and I think it's coming through the baby monitor because my desk is like in a different part of the room from my wife. So she's like, "Do you hear that?" And I was like, "Yeah, he's awake." And she's like, "No, that wasn't out of the baby monitor." And we look over, and he's just on our stairs. He, but so he got out of his crib, opened his bedroom door. We have a baby gate outside of his bedroom door in the hallway. He got around that, went down the stairs by himself, went across the house, went through another set of stairs, and then came up to our set of stairs to find us.
Jeez.
And I was like, how did he get through the baby gate? Oh, and I went upstairs and everything was closed. Like,
Sure. So he cleaned up after himself.
yeah. So the thing is, we have cats, and our baby gates have in that part of the house have tiny little cat doors at the bottom.
Oh.
And he
Is
figured
he
out
that small? Like he can fit through a cat door?
he shouldn't have been able to, but he figured out how to like angle himself. I literally walked him up to it, put him on the other side, and just like did that parent weight thing, and he immediately like, got down on his stomach and like rotated and put his arms through, and then like rotated another way and angled his legs through, and like so he doesn't fit through, but he figured it out and then
Sure, because I mean,
remembered.
if your head is not too big, and then it's just wiggling your shoulders.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because I initially measured. I was like, okay, his shoulders won't fit through here, but I didn't expect him to like Catherine Zeta through it. I thought he was like a baby. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, he's a baby.
Oh
He's
no, I totally understood that. What was that? What was that movie?
entrapment.
Entrapment reference. Entrapment reference. No, I remember that. Everybody remembers that trailer very vividly.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Deep cut. Yeah, kids are ferrets
So then I
at
was
that
just
age. They're
like,
pretty much just ferrets.
I got some shoelaces and I tied the door to that halfway closed, so it would only open like 45 degrees instead of 90 degrees. And I was like, all right, the cats are like they're cats. They can get through that. But now I've taken away half his maneuvering. And my wife was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Look, he would have to do." And like I mimic this crazy movement to get through. And I put him on the other side, and he looks at me and immediately mimics the crazy movement that I just said he would have to do to get through and gets through. And I
Wow.
was just like, okay, this is no good. So
No.
we've changed out his doorknob for a doorknob that has a lock on it, so we can lock him in from the outside. Which
He's a
it,
werewolf.
yeah, seriously, she was like, "This isn't a good look." I was like, "It's temporary. I have a real. I honestly, I didn't have a spare doorknob that didn't have a lock on it, and I bought those like rubber things that like kids can't turn doorknobs with for him.
Good
Because
idea.
he had a latch, and you could just push down the latch, so like he was having too easy of a time, and then he started climbing up onto his crib, and he has a ball pit in his bedroom, and flipping off the top of the crib into the ball pit.
How big is the ball pit?
Not big enough for that.
Hmm.
Um, so I went online and I ordered him a toddler bed like immediately, and now he sleeps in a toddler bed. And I was editing
Smart.
the episode in the middle of all this happening, and I was just like, son of a bitch, I did
Some,
this.
I mean, son of a you.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be impressed.
I
It's
am
impressive that he can do that.
so impressed. Like he was
There you
so
go.
smart,
That's what's important.
and he is super confident now. Like he's doing stairs on his own now. Like we spot him, but he doesn't need it. Like he's figured it out. Like he is like not that dangerous confident, just like I know how to do this, and he just gets around the house now. It's very
Because
nice.
he's just two, right?
He's
Like just
about to
turned two.
turn. He's
About to
about
turn
to
two.
turn 2 in like 5 weeks. In like 3 weeks by the time people hear this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember he was born just at the beginning of the pandemic.
We were in the hospital in labor when lockdown happened.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Oh, let's talk about things that are fun.
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
Okay, so here's the thing. And I was not
Hmm.
only well out of COVID when this happened, I also took 2 COVID tests before going. So, a while ago, at my brother's 40th birthday was the very end of December. So, for his
Hmm.
birthday present, there's this really, really nice restaurant at the Jersey Shore that my wife and I used to eat at when we lived there. That is just really good food. Like some of the best food I've ever had every time I've ever gone there. And they had they partnered with Maker's Mark for a night
Hmm.
and had a whiskey and food pairing 5 course dinner
Ooh.
that I bought my I so I for my brother's 40th I bought him a ticket, and me and my other brother took him. Like we went halvesies because it was expensive. But we all three of us went out and did this Maker's Mark pairing thing. So for all 5 courses, you had a Maker's Mark cocktail made with a different Maker's Mark, and then a neat glass of that Maker's Mark so you could taste it on its own and in the cocktail.
Hmm.
And we drank so much Maker's Mark.
Oh,
It
that's good.
was luckily it was like a 4 hour event, so you could kind of process it. But my favorite thing from that, because there was a lot of really good whiskey, and Maker's Mark isn't normally my whiskey, but
Hmm.
a few of these were. So what I had was a citrus old fashioned. Now I'm a really big fan of old fashions already, but this was made with Maker's Mark 101, Demerara syrup, which is simple syrup made with brown sugar, citrus bitters, and a dehydrated candied orange inside of it. And Sam, it was
Oh
so
my
good.
god.
It was one of the best cocktails I've ever had in my life.
Amazing. That sounds so amazing.
Yeah, Maker's Mark 101, really good. Had not had that one. I'd only ever had Maker's Mark Standard
Hmm.
before. Honestly, like as a whole, the whole night was like one of the best meals of my 30s, I would say so far. But this cocktail is potentially the best cocktail I've had in my 30s as well.
That sounds really nice.
It was really nice. So
All right. Well,
check.
your cocktail story sounds better than my cocktail story.
Yeah, if anything, I'm gonna recommend people play around with Demerara syrup, brown sugar simple syrup. I've it just it was so good. It put such I've had citrus old fashions before, and I feel like they changed up the whiskey a little bit, but like that might have been what did it. So at home, try it. What do you drink?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what I attempted or what I thought I was going to do versus what ended up happening. So tonight's topic we're talking about, obviously, if you've clicked, we're talking about the show Just Beyond on Disney Plus. And one of the episodes I watched is called Unfiltered. I was like, oh, that's a good excuse to do a drink that I've wanted to try for a long time, which is a milk filtered cocktail.
Hmm.
And basically, what that is it's a cocktail made. The recipes I've found are like rum or vodka, and then usually they'll have a tea element. It's very British, so like Earl Grey tea, lemon juice, and on top of other things. Again, I didn't end up doing this, so I don't want to talk about any particular recipes, but definitely look up because these are pretty interesting. And then a bunch of full fat milk, which the milk hits the lemon, it curdles. And what it effectively does is it filters out a lot of the bitter tastes of your drink. And then you filter that through a strainer a few times, and you end up with these like beautiful crystal clear cocktails with these really, really clean finishes. And I've never had one. I've wanted to try one. You can find recipes for milk filtered punches online. But I ran into a situation where I went and I looked up a recipe tonight and I realized I was like, all right, I got about an hour to make this happen. And I was like, oh, this could take several hours to do. So definitely didn't do the homework. Maybe I'll do that. We're supposed to get snow this weekend, so I might try this over the weekend when I'm stuck in the house. Um, End up just doing a rum and coke, sipping on a rum and coke right now. It's delicious. I got just a nip of Captain Morgan and one of them little mini cans of Coke, poured them together, and I am enjoying myself. And at a later date, I'm going to try one of these much more elaborate milk punches. The recipe I'm looking at right now takes 2.5 hours. I'm on Alton Brown's website. It looks really good. I can't wait to one day try it, but today was not the day.
That's so sad. I've seen them before, also done by Alton Brown. I'm a big fan, and I've always wanted to try one, and I was hoping you would be able to fill me in.
Failed. Total fail today.
It's
Not gonna
fair.
lie.
I
Today
mean,
was the fail day.
I was planning on doing something on brand, and then I did this whiskey tasting, and I was like, the world must know. So,
No.
neither of us ended up on brand.
Yeah, we do what we can. This rum and coke is delightful.
It always is.
It always is. It never disappoints.
One of the things I loved most about living in Costa Rica was that you could just get rum and coke in a can, like instead of a beer. There was just rum and a coke in a can everywhere. And it was so good. And I miss that.
Yeah, I miss being in my 20s, just in general.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All
But now
right,
we're dads.
now
Being
we're
a dad's better.
dads.
Speaking
Now,
of dads, let's talk about children's television programming.
yes. So, as Sam has said, we watched Just Beyond. If you haven't heard of Just Beyond, it launched on Disney Plus back in October of 2021. It is listed as an American horror comedy series.
Hmm.
I watched 2 episodes. I didn't get any comedy out of this. I don't know why it's listed as an American comedy series, but I have an idea why it might be.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's based on graphic novels of the same name by R.L. Stine of Goosebumps and Fear Street fame, but he also apparently did a series of graphic novels, and they
Hmm.
were produced and adapted by Seth Graham Smith, who created Pride and Prejudice and Zombies and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. So it might be considered a horror comedy just because it's made by a man who has a history of making horror comedies.
Okay.
That's all I can think.
Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was. I love that book. That's a tremendous book. The movie was okay.
I
The book was
watched
great.
Watched the movie for Vampire Hunter, didn't watch the movie for Pride and Prejudice, didn't read either book.
Hmm,
Not to like put them down, I just, never got around to it. But
that's fair.
same guy who brought them into the world. He's also done a lot of other stuff, but those are the ones that I'm giving merit to here. Look him up yourself.
Oh yeah, that's fair. R.L. Stine. Obviously, we talk about R.L. Stine a lot on this show.
I mean, he
Um,
hasn't answered our challenge to come on the podcast and defend himself, so maybe if we keep picking on him, third time's a charm. We picked on him over Fear Street, we picked on him over Goosebumps, and now
Goosebumps.
we're coming for you again, R.L. Stine.
Thank you for producing so much content that we can talk about.
And
R.L.
honestly,
Stine, we're forever in your debt.
this one was on my list for us to do before I even knew it was R.L. Stine, so at this point it's just
Mhm.
coming up. He's just created so much children's horror, it's hard to not accidentally pick up his stuff.
I mean, he's the Stephen King of children's horror.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what? I'm going to switch that up. I'm going to say that Stephen King is the grown-up horror's R.L. Stine.
I'll take it.
That's Stephen King.
I have read and watched more R.L. Stine than Stephen King.
Oh yeah, easily.
Easily.
Not even a question. Easily. And I like Stephen King. I seek out Stephen King. Have I read more R.L. Stine? Almost certainly.
I even like Stephen
Almost
King
certainly.
as a person. I don't even know if I like R.L. Stine, but I like his stuff.
Hmm. There we go.
Okay.
But just beyond. Yeah, let's what do we do? Should we just launch into it or do you have more a backstory?
No, that's about all the backstory I had. We did that thing that we kind of usually do where we both watched the first episode. So we have one episode that we kind of can talk about together, and then we each went our separate ways and covered a different episode that we'll report back. So for episode one, I'll let Sam give the synopsis. He's better at that type of thing, and I'll cut him off abruptly with my interjections, as I always do.
Okay, so episode 1 is I just
Leave
clicked
them
off of
kids
IMDb.
alone.
Leave them kids alone, isn't it? Thank you.
That's what I'm
Episode
here
1,
for.
Leave Them Kids Alone, stars McKenna Grace, an actress who is
In
uh,
everything. She is in
she's into everything right
absolutely
now.
everything. She plays young Sabrina. She is the middle child in Haunting of Hill House in the young versions. The girl who like can't touch things without seeing them. She's in
Hmm.
like 30 other things. We went to her IMDb.
Handmaid's Tale,
If you've
Young Sheldon.
if you've watched something with a girl under the age of 15 in the last 10 years, it was her.
Oh, that might be a little exaggerating.
You know what I mean.
She's like the current Dakota Fanning, let's say.
Yes.
She's like, remember when Dakota Fanning was every preteen to teenage girl there for a while? She is that right now.
She was in the new Ghostbusters movie. She's, the main character, I
Hmm.
believe. She's
Yeah.
Egon's granddaughter. She was in I,
Spoiler.
Tanya.
That's a spoiler.
Is it? I got that from the
Thank God.
trailer. I got that from the first teaser trailer.
Yeah, because she has that cartoon Egon haircut.
She has the cartoon Egon haircut, and she's also like at her dead grandfather's house, and there's only one dead actor.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, not a spoiler.
Like
She's Egon's.
there are so many hints that this is Egon's house. Yeah, she is in a lot. She was in Fuller House,
I didn't know
Annabelle.
that.
Yeah, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I said, Ready Player One. She's just in everything. Once Upon a Time as young Emma.
She's really young because she was born in. I'm looking at
She's 15,
2016, so that makes her 15.
not
So just the
2016.
amount of. She was born in 2006. I'm sorry. So she has done so much in such a short period of time.
Yes, she works
Pretty
a
amazing
lot.
for her.
She started working in 2013 and her IMDb has 61 credits.
She should take a break.
She should. But you're right. She definitely
So
has
that,
that Dakota Ellie Fanning look.
young, blonde, white girl. But she's a good actress. I think she was really good in this. So the story goes. Okay, let's chill on McKenna Grace. Let's get the plot out.
I mean,
Uh,
I mean, do you want to just get this out of the way? Because there's a lot of famous people in this. Um,
this episode. So the other
yeah.
famous person well, it was Nassim Pedrad, and I love her. I think she's one of the
Yes.
most underutilized SNL cast members out of the last decade or so. She should be in so much more stuff. I don't know why she only pops up in things kind of, it feels periodically. This is her most recent credit. I guess this was only a few months ago.
Yeah.
Um, she she left SNL back in 2016, so 4 years ago. Definitely, I think she should just be in so much more stuff. Nasi Petra,
I
she's an
mean,
amazing
she
actress.
was
She's
in New
hilarious.
Girl. She was in Scream Queens. She was in just one episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She has her own show now. It's called Chad.
Is that
Um,
her show?
yeah, she plays Chad.
Oh, I
She
had not
plays
heard
a
of
high
this.
school boy named Chad.
Oh
Yeah,
my
she
god!
was
Now
in
I'm looking at the
Aladdin.
pictures.
No, she's very active. I was like, I see her all the time.
Oh, I didn't know about Chad. I was not aware of this show, and now I'm gonna go watch it.
Yeah, so one of the others, so the principal at the beginning.
Hmm.
So the episode starts off with her. She's a rebel, which we'll get into in a
She's a
minute.
rebel.
And she gets thrown in front of the principal, and I was like, "Who is that principal?" And did you watch How I Met Your Mother?
Dead.
She's Wendy the waitress,
Oh,
who was
okay.
like a lead background character for like the first three seasons of How I Met Your Mother. She was in like most of the episodes for at least a minute or two. She was like their Gunther in like Friends.
Hmm.
So I was like watching it. I was like, "Who are you?" And I was just like, "Oh my God, you're Wendy the waitress." So
So
there's
let's explain the plot. Let's explain the plot.
okay. She's a rebel.
She's a rebel. So McKenna Grace is a high school student. She's 14 years old. She has had apparently um, one of those summers where she became very, let's do air quotes, woke. She's now wearing very post-punk sort of clothes. She's listening to Green Day. That is her rebel song. She listens to a lot of Green Day music that they make very explicitly clear throughout the episode. Um, and because of her newly found rebellious nature, her parents are worried that she is going down a bad path
And she gets
because of
suspended
how
from school.
she gets suspended from school and she gets sent to Nassim Pedrad's
Miss
kind of reform
Genevieve's school
school
for
for troubled
bad
girls.
girls.
I'm just
Yeah.
gonna call it Nassim Pedrad School. And the plot of the episode is she becomes very aware that the girls in her school are being brainwashed, and she's a rebel, so she has to fight against this brainwashing that's going on. I think that's a pretty quick, easy synopsis of the episode.
Yes. So my first thing is the episode starts and it's going like it's just jumping from kid to kid to kid in the hallway, and they're all wearing headphones and they're all listening to different things, and then you land on her and it goes from like documentaries to different types of music to like an abrupt punk rock record scratch. And I'm like, in my high school, I know I haven't been in high school for a long time, but we weren't allowed to wear headphones ever at any point in the day. Walking
No,
in, walking out after the final bell had rang, you could not have headphones out. And it's just like, that was weirdly jarring. And I was like, would any school allow this? Every single kid has their headphones in.
and you know what the thing is? It's not even that it's just regular headphones. It's those giant over-the-ear headset type headphones,
Yes.
like what I'm wearing right now doing a podcast. Like everybody's wearing those. I think like four kids in a row. One of them had like cat ears, which made me laugh because my 4-year-old daughter, has those exact same headphones. Um, but they're so visible. But I guess that was the point because they're just like, oh, they're trying to show these different kids and like how each different one of them experiences the world through what they listen to on their giant oversized headphones that they absolutely would not be allowed to wear in school. I was
At
very
all.
bothered by it.
Yeah, same. And it's not like that
That
jealous,
was that was
like, it's just like, that's unrealistic. That's just like, what kid is going to see this and be like, that looks like my experience?
I my first note on the episode is everyone has big headphones.
That is my first one after the opening, which we kind of skipped over. But
Oh yeah, I don't think we need to talk about it. It was just
I will get
you're
there. It's
okay. You
it's
want to talk about the opening?
it's more campy than scary. It didn't go for like that atmosphere that other shows like Are You Afraid of the Dark or like even Creeped Out go for. Like
Mm-hmm.
they don't try and set the tone. It's like a doofy Scooby Doo esque opening that has that
It
like
was cartoony.
aliens, oh snap type of a ending to quote.
It's a twist.
Yeah, the twist was basically that opening is basically that Are You Afraid of the Dark episode that you watched where the kid finds out that he's been an alien the whole time.
That's
That's
true. That was my
basically
first
what
thought
the
also.
opening to this show was. I was like, this is just that book that Sam read. Like, or, the
It
episode that you
was.
watched.
I mean, they do that. I mean, okay, so that comes up in Goosebumps. Are You Afraid of the Dark? And now this,
Yeah.
like the twist being it's aliens, and this is all just the opening. I thought the opening kind of did not fit the show,
No, that's what I was saying. I was like, it
and
was very campy, and then you get into it, and this was actually, I thought, good.
um,
Like,
um, I thought the opening was spookier than the show actually was.
for
What I
this?
would say.
So,
Yeah, I think the opening was. I don't think it was. I wouldn't say it was good. I thought it was a little bit too silly,
hmm.
but I think it was trying to be more scary than the show.
So
Ultimately, at least the two episodes I watched ultimately felt like.
this episode was not spooky. When we watched it, like, I enjoyed it. It was fine. It reeks of R.L. Stine, by the way.
Mm.
It just like, and that is not a negative, but like, if I hadn't known this was R.L. Stine, I would have thought they were ripping off R.L. Stine, and then looked it up and found out it was actually R.L. Stine.
Oh
But
no, it was very on brand Stein.
this episode,
I yeah.
it's just disturbing behavior, but for kids. This is the movie Disturbing Behavior, but in a 25-minute Disney episode.
Oh yeah, you know what I put down? I put down this is Stepford Wives, and disturbing behavior was definitely Stepford Wives, but teenagers.
Yeah, and this is
But it has
Stepford.
that. That's the DNA.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is literally like, and there's definitely that Wives vibe because all the girls, when they get brainwashed, become blonde and get this specific Stepford haircut. Blah blah blah. So like, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was like, this is just the movie Disturbing Behavior, done by
Mhm.
R.L. Stine. The kid actors were very strong though. I thought,
Oh yeah,
like all of them.
absolutely. I thought there were three main
Three main
children
girls,
actors.
they all nailed it.
McKenna Grace, Leanne Ross played kind of the I don't know the character who kind of knew what was going on, teenage girl, and then there was
Lauren
another
Lindsay
girl, Lauren.
Donzis.
Yeah, she was the roommate, brainwashed roommate. She was also very good. The children were very good. Acting was good in this. I like Nassim Petrod. I mean, I'm gonna go to bat for her any day of the week. So I think that all of our leads in this were crushing it.
Yes. The only person who wasn't great was Mr. Welch, the guy who was brainwashing all the girls. But like, I don't think he was supposed to be great. I think he was played right. He was played very R.L. Stine, mad scientist villain, and I don't know if you need a good actor for that. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Because it's almost too
sure.
silly of a role to give a good actor.
He was definitely the most cartoony character because he was a mad scientist.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Um,
how much can you do with that? I think it was good like all across the board with that. I do
So,
have a problem with
mm,
the ending. So in the end, she saves all the girls with the power of
spoiler
punk
alert.
rock.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, she saves all the girls with the power of punk rock by blasting Green Day through the school speaker system. She's able to interrupt the brainwashing and free all the girls. And they
It's a
all,
nice little Shawshank moment.
yeah, and they all run out of the school and they all converge on her from all the buildings in the middle of this field in the quad and like surround her. And I'm like, why are they converging on her? Not she's been in school for like 24 hours. She hasn't met any of these kids. They don't know her. Like it was like this weird and then she leads them all on a march off the school grounds, but I'm like how do they know to go to her? How do they know who she is? Like this like it like had this really good flow and logic and then in like one big kid moment was just like it just kind of
Yeah.
weirdly ridiculous at the end.
So I had a couple of problems with the script of this episode, and one, Seem Pedrad, she's our lead villain. She's the one who's brainwashing all of these students. Don't feel like I really understood why she was doing it, other than she thought that kids today were disrespectful. Um, Still don't know what exactly her plan was, because if she's she's taking these children in, she's brainwashing them, and then sending them back out into the world, they would pretty much immediately all get the brainwashing broken.
Yeah, all I could think
Because it
there
just took music.
was that like maybe because he kept doing touch-ups on them, so maybe there's a
Hmm.
point where it doesn't get broken out of you and then you can send them back. But her parents drove her to campus and like parked in the middle of the quad. If they had like driven up blasting music, they could have disrupted everything. They could
Yeah,
have pulled up playing music and just like freed every girl in the quad and caused pandemonium and been like, well, this isn't a good place to drop off our kid, and just driven out, and that like it end credits.
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, even though this is written for a fairly young audience, I mean, the characters were about 14, so that means I have to imagine that the probably be aiming for probably the 8 to 12 range. There, you should have a stronger. Your villain should be stronger. The villains should be doing the things they're doing for a reason. Otherwise, it just doesn't make enough sense. Her plan didn't really make any sense. There was no way that it could be sustained. I also didn't like that it was very much a girls against the system kind of vibe is the plot line, because it's all rebellious young women who are being sent to this place to be brainwashed and turned into perfect young women. Um, so the fact that it was another woman who was doing it to them, without knowing exactly what her motivations were, again, even though this is written for a pretty young audience, I feel like that should be clear. If you're going to make that choice, or if it's a man, if it was a male head of the school, I think it could kind of just let it be, the oppression of men against women, and it would read pretty well. But the fact that they went with a woman headmistress, I felt like it kind of missed the mark.
Now, at the beginning, and I agree with you, at the beginning of the episode, when she's talking to her original principal, her principal's like, I am one school principal. How much do you think I could possibly do? So all I can think is that they were trying to like juxtapose that. You know what I mean? Where one principal can actually do change, and that's not necessarily good.
Yeah,
Um, but I do agree it could have been a man, but then we wouldn't have gotten such a
Seepadrot.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I mean, what's that's the trade-off. A great actress. Um, yeah, it felt very much like it should have been a women against men sort of story. I also kind of wish they had gone with a female punk band instead of Green Day
Yeah, I think
for the big like women empower moment.
they literally chose it so they could have the song start with "She's a Rebel," so you knew that she was a rebel. Like they slapped you in the face with it. Um,
Yeah, and you could just get a female band to cover it. It's Disney money.
Absolutely.
Like Disney can do that
My
instead of
wife
paying for the resorts. It would actually be less expensive, I
what
think.
yeah, my wife watched these with me and she was like, "How much do you think they had to pay Green Day to do this?" And I was like, "I don't know. Maybe Disney owns the Green Day playlist. Like, I don't know."
Totally could be actually, but
Yeah,
you'd still expect. I mean, like I feel like
there's
if they
so
had
many
gone with a
good.
female punk band, there's so many female-led punk bands.
Yeah, you could have gone to so many just great old 90s Riot Girl bands. You could have just done female punk. You like there's so much you could have done. But they
Or
just wanted
just put a female band together to cover this. She's a rebel.
yeah.
It didn't land for me. Acting was good. Here's and this I think is something that came clear throughout the episodes. I don't know if you noticed in the other episode you watched, but I had the same feeling coming out of the second episode that I watched. The ending was too happy.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. I was like, everyone
Mhm.
charges her and they march out victorious, and I'm like, I feel like they cut it there because they had to cut it there. Like, they've already established there's barbed wire going around this entire place, and like a
It's
gate
true.
and like actual non-brainwashed security. Like, all right, so like 3 dozen girls are now not brainwashed. They have to escape this compound. They need to get to town, have someone believe them. Like this story is not over. This is just like a big you're riding that wave of feeling now, but this is just end of step A.
Yeah, it's like you still need to get out, and that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I did talk to my wife about that. I had the exact same thought. And back to my disturbing behavior reference, the episode is called
Mhm.
"Leave Them Kids Alone," and that um, another brick in the
Oh
wall
right.
was the theme song for disturbing behavior. So I can't help but feel that that wasn't a direct nod to the fact that they were,
No, that had to be an intentional.
I found
There was a couple of references that were like definitely going to be over the audience's head. Again, they had that bit there when they play the music over the loudspeakers. It's a Shawshank reference,
yes.
very clearly because you have one of the characters doing the thing where she's sitting at the principal's desk with her feet up and her hands behind her head. I'm like, okay, so this is straight up Shawshank. I'm like, kids are not going to get that reference, but it's
Yeah.
also fine because who's also watching it as kids' parents.
Yeah, both episodes I watched had shout out moments like that where I was like, okay, this can't be an accident.
But yeah, overall, the act, I like the kid actors. I think they were really good. I think the plot just there was shocking. This seems so silly to say, but there was no edge to it, especially by the end. I felt like it just wasn't scary enough for me.
And that's the thing, this one wasn't scary. And like I remember watching disturbing behavior as a kid, like as a teen, and like that wasn't scary. It's like a horror movie, but it's like a psychological horror. It's not like a scary horror. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like the horror of disturbing behavior is cultural. It's not like there's no monster. There's no greater thing to be defeated. It's just like a societal issue. So like for the first episode in a horror anthology, I don't know if it was the best start despite being well done,
Hmm. Yeah,
but
I imagine it. I imagine they probably kicked it off with this episode because of McKenna Grace, because she's such a name right now.
yeah, I agree. Okay, my next episode was scary.
Hmm.
Are you done with Leave Them Kids Alone?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, let's move on.
All right, so I jumped to episode 4, My Monster. I almost did the episode you did, Unfiltered, because I felt like it would tie really in well into my creeped out episode, because it
Hmm.
seems to be about a girl with a magic cell phone. But I honestly didn't have the emotional energy to do a compare contrast. So I did My Monster because I liked the I liked the blurb about it, but then also the screenshot, like the thumbnail for it, is actually the monster that is the like mascot thumbnail for the show.
Hmm.
So I
This sort
was
of Slender Man looking character here.
yes. So I was like, cool. I will do like what they're using as their flagship character. So The premise of this one is after moving into her mom's creepy childhood home, teenager Olivia is haunted by a masked monster. So we start off, and it is clearly the 80s. There's a teenage girl who is dressed in what can only be an intentional nod to Dana's outfit in Ghostbusters when she's taken possession of.
Red dress.
No, no, no. That's what she gets after she's possessed. She's in that workout outfit
Oh, okay.
when like she gets home from working out and she's in like her like leotard thing, and then like she sits down in the chair and she gets strapped to the chair and pulled into the closet. She's wearing like that exact outfit that Sigourney Weaver was wearing.
Okay. Okay. The sort of okay workout outfit. All right. Cool.
So like again, it's not like a similar outfit. Like I saw it and I was just like, that's just Sigourney Weaver's outfit, and that's how they're establishing it's the '80s. So where was I? Okay, so yeah, this girl is sitting on her couch and it's clearly the '80s. The furniture, what they're saying on the television, this outfit, and it's a rainstorm, and she starts to hear this creepy music. And she goes over to the window, and like lightning strikes, and she thinks she sees something outside, and she turns around, and Slender Man, for all intents and purposes, is standing behind her, and she screams. And then it jumps to modern day, and our main character Olivia and her mom and younger brother have just moved into her mother's childhood home after her parents divorced, and they're starting over there. And and you basically immediately learn that the teenage girl was the mother. Um, Back when she used to live in this house, and the casting for the teenage girl and the mother was not good. Like, I do not believe that she grew into that woman. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It was
Sure.
one of those like moments where I was immediately like, "Oh, you could have done better. Like you've taken me out of this." So the main daughter immediately starts to have weird encounters and hearing the music and kind of starting to suspect the house is haunted. But she's also putting on a really brave face for her mom and her younger brother, but is clearly not dealing with her parents' divorce well behind closed doors. So she meets the kid next door who's like, you live in the spooky house. And I don't know what they were going for, but I like it, Sam.
Hmm.
It's like, did you watch any of I Am Not Okay with This on Netflix?
No, I did not.
Okay, do you know what it is?
No, tell me.
Okay, it's based on a graphic novel. Um, it is the girl from the It Chapter 1 movie.
Hmm.
And basically, she hits high school and finds out she has superpowers. But it's like not like a happy fun show.
Oh, all right.
And in that she has like this weirdo next door neighbor that has like a crush on her and is like a little older and like wears like a bathrobe and slippers while he drives around town, like that really eccentric teenager. Um, I didn't finish the show, but I got really big vibes that they were trying to create like a kids show version of him mixed with Xander Harris.
Hmm.
And it was perfect. I thought it was a perfect creation. I really liked the kid. I wish he was in more of the episode. He had amazing lines. So there's just so many amazing bad lines. Like, you know how sometimes horror, campy horror is good just because of the weird, stupid stuff people say?
Hmm.
This episode, so she teams up with him to try and figure out about her haunted house. And he's like, all right, so you've got flickering lights and like you hear weird music. And she's like, yeah, flickering lights, weird music. That's just what old houses do, right? And I'm like, weird music? Old houses don't do weird music. um, I also feel like I've seen this house in like 20 movies. I feel like Netflix films like half their shows in this house. I
Okay.
I know this was a Disney show, but you know what I mean? Like where you just like watching it and you're like, I feel like if I fell into the TV, I could just walk around this house. I feel like I've seen
You
it.
know, okay.
I know this house inside and
It's
out.
okay. No, I'm sure that is according to IMDb, it was shot in Atlanta, Georgia. It was probably they probably used the same house for like a bunch of different shows.
Yeah. Um, One of the things that really sold me on the next door neighbor is the line, "This is bad. I mean, this is real bad. A mask is one thing, but a suit, there's nothing worse than a maniac with taste." Which is him talking about Slender Man.
So it is a comedy.
Yeah, he was funny. So she progresses. He's helping her research it. He's haunting her. He follows her to school. He interrupts her cheerleader tryouts. She gets locked in like the creepy basement with him. He keeps showing up in her life, and he's inconsistent. Um, so like they're trying to figure out like his triggers, and everything's contradictory. So the actress that they got to play her was very good. The faces she's able to make are like just perfect. Like those scenes where you're not saying anything, you're just like facially
Hmm.
emoting. Just nailed it. Her name's Megan Scott. I haven't. She was in Little Fires Everywhere, but other than that, she seems like she was mainly in a show called So Shook, which I have never heard from, but probably something we should watch based on the title.
Okay.
Um, so a focal point of this episode is that she becomes friends with the popular girls, and they are going to this local amusement park that seems like it's almost a ripoff of Action Park.
From New Jersey.
Yes, and now the movie fame, and she is scared of roller coasters, and they apparently have the scariest roller coaster, which you get to hear like three commercials for in the backgrounds, and again, they made the episode, Sam. It's just like things like the only coaster condemned by the United Nations. Come on down before we get our license revoked again. It had really big action park vibes. I really enjoyed this episode, and so eventually she's going through, and eventually it starts to open up with her mother about this. And her mother's like, "Oh, it's never gone away. The monster still haunts me. It's just like an old friend at this point. It just pops in." And that's when it clicked to me that this monster is just depression and anxiety. She has an anxiety disorder. And
Hmm.
all the things that triggered it showing up was her anxiety disorder. And they've just made it into a monster for this episode. And it's about her needing to come to terms with her monster and just kind of learn to live with it and understand that he's not going anywhere, but he can't actually hurt her. So it was,
Oh, okay. That's very thoughtful.
yeah, it was actually really well done. So it took a while for it to like click in, like they, because like that's kind of like the reveal of like what the monster is. They don't say it explicitly, but you know, it was a really good way to kind of tackle that, I think, for 14-year-olds who were starting to hit like depression and anxiety and stress, like actual stress. Um, so I liked it. It had a fun little ending. I could have done a whole season of this episode. I wanted more of the next door
Okay.
neighbor. I wanted more of just like the little town they had built up and the different characters. I wanted more of the monster. I would have definitely done a few episodes of this one. I don't know how far they could have ridden it, but they definitely had more life in it. Um, there are, I mean, definitely some like Chekhov's gun moments. Like at one point, she goes down to get a drink in the middle of the night, and she gets out a glass, and I was like, well, that's gonna break. It's the middle of the night, and it almost. And then she pulls out a glass water pitcher from the fridge, and I was like, who even puts one of those in the fridge?
Just
Eh,
use the tap.
just use and yeah, they immediately shatter because the brother screams for her, and I was like, oh my god, you've got a little brother. He was in the opening, and we haven't seen him for 25 minutes. I really thought he was going to be a bigger part of this, and then we never saw him again. I liked this a lot more than Creeped Out, and I liked this a lot more than the first episode. This was a genuinely good episode. And I thought they tackled, like, because, we talked about with Creeped Out, like, it was like a lot of morality tales and stuff. It wasn't a morality tale. It was almost just like, it tackled an issue well, as opposed to, like, lecturing you on. So I don't know how to explain the difference right now, but it hit the nail on the head with like this is anxiety. Like
Oh, all right.
it was really good. I really liked it. I recommend you watch it in your free time. Because again, they hit the scary pretty good. He's not the scariest Slender Man, but it's also made for like 14-year-olds. So
Sure.
he's scary enough. There was one jump scare where my wife fell off the couch almost. So, like, you know, it had enough in there.
Well, the next episode that I watched was episode 5, titled Unfiltered. Unfiltered tells the story of Lily. Lily is a nerdy high school girl. She, struggles with her appearance. She has one close friend who is also kind of a nerdy girl, who she's frequently confiding in that she would like to be attractive and popular, which catches the attention of their substitute art teacher, who is an attractive woman, and she gives Lily an app on her phone that allows her to change her appearance. So the same sort of way you would put on, a filter. The name of the episode again is Unfiltered. Um, it changes your physical appearance, but at the cost of also changing your personality.
So,
Mm.
this so far sounds, with the exception of if you replace teacher with TV commercial, this is like exactly how my creeped out episode started.
Yeah, it was very no. The episodes share a lot of the same personality. Uh, personality. The episodes share a lot of the same story structure, and that it's dealing with the sort of evil technology. But the
Hmm.
episode's not really about the evils of technology. The episode is more about the evils of vanity. I don't know. Is that or could let me explain. uh, Lily, as she progresses, she gets prettier and prettier throughout the episode. Again, it kind of suffers from the fact that obviously it's a good-looking young woman who is just kind of dressed frumpily, who is put into you know better makeup and more flattering outfits as the episode goes on. Um, as she progresses, she starts to get more and more distorted. So there's a point where she makes her lips way too big and she starts to look silly. She's at a party and she attempts to make herself look more attractive and she just becomes kind of a contorted sort of cartoon looking character of herself. And by the time she realizes she's made a mistake, it's too late. She can't switch herself back to the way that she was. The episode culminates when she goes and confronts the substitute teacher at her home. I don't say explicitly what the teacher is, but I'm thinking she was some sort of witch who was basically using this app to steal people's youth and attractiveness. So the scariest part of this episode, when she's at the teacher's house, are all these mirrors, and in each mirror is the ghost or essence of somebody who has also fallen victim to this same trap. The episode ends with her, with Lily busting the mirrors, um, which turns the substitute teacher basically back into like a pile of ash and bone. and gives her her normal nerdy appearance back, and she goes back and kind of apologizes to her friend uh, who she betrayed in order to be one of the popular crowd. So it's one of those um, be careful what you wish for sort of episodes. It's one of those don't worry about the way you look on the outside. People care more about who you are on the inside sort of stories, which is pretty typical, I would say, of your preteen spooky genre. Um, Overall, I'd say the episode was okay. Definitely the ghost mirrors. The ghost mirrors were actually pretty scary. Um, but I had the same kind of problem that I had with the first episode where the win is just too easy. The time she starts fighting back against the evil substitute teacher, the substitute teacher doesn't really seem to do anything to stop her and just kind of lets her win. And we have a happy ending where everybody gets what they want. Again, it just kind of felt like there wasn't a lot of an edge to it.
Yeah.
Um, Overall, it was okay. I wanted there to be would have liked there have been more consequences to her actions. You know, because everything kind of works out just fine. It doesn't really feel like Lily learns a lesson.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an okay episode. The actor, the teen actresses are all very good. Um, but it wasn't my yeah. The happy ending just doesn't do it for me. I wanted that R.L. Stine final twist. I think
Yeah,
because it's Disney. I think it's because it's Disney. You don't really get that.
that's
'Cause I would
true.
say, yeah, the endings are yeah the endings of the two episodes I watched. I think were just too clean.
I would be interested to see the endings of the graphic novels and see if they're the same.
Yeah,
Because the ending of mine was happy, but it worked for mine.
it's a thoughtful ending.
It's a
That's a realistic ending for a story about anxiety.
Yeah, well, because she's afraid of roller coasters, but it ends with her getting on the roller coaster because that's what her friends are doing. And she looks over, and in the seat next to her is Slender Man,
Hmm.
and she's just like, "Oh, this seat's taken." And her friend next door slides in next door, and then they go off. But then you see the coaster going down, and in the seat behind her is Slender Man. So he's always with her.
Was with her.
He's always just behind her, which was like a cool little fun note. Like, she's learned to live with this thing, but like everything's not better. She's just better. So I really liked that. It worked. But I understand in other episodes it not working as well. Because again, I didn't love it
Yeah,
in the first one.
and they make a point of saying at the beginning of this episode that as she like tries swapping out her physical appearance, that it also swaps out parts of her personality kind of to compensate. Like, that's what you trade. But she doesn't know that first time she tries it. Like she thinks, "Oh, this is just a beauty app. Let me see what I would look like if I had a different nose." She hits the button, it swaps out her actual physical nose. But at that point, it has already had an impact on her personality. So she keeps going forward, but she kind of like, we never have this moment where she's kind of like regretful of what she's doing until it has gone way too far. Because I was thinking, it's like, oh, is this about addiction? I think if it was a story about addiction, she would be more introspective about it. Whereas she just, as soon as she swaps out her nose, she's essentially a completely different character. Um, a way that doesn't feel real with people who are, I would expect to see with people who are struggling with these kind of identity issues, where they're still, where there's a slower descent. She changes her nose, and then she's just a completely different character from that point on, and doesn't feel like she's cognizant enough of her actions.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my take on it. And again, I just wanted that great R.L. Stine twist at the end, and I didn't get it. It was just a happy ending.
Yeah. Yeah, I think mine's the only one that had a twist. And it wasn't necessarily the R.L. Stine twist.
No, but
Like,
that's a much better twist.
it
That's a
was. It
much
was.
better
It
twist
was
than.
like he's matured to this point type of a twist, which I was like, oh, this is like a cool progression of your weird twist. Uh, I am considering watching the rest of the show. I
Mm.
guess I could let you know if any of the other episodes have a good twist, because like it looked fun. A lot of the episodes looked fun. I could, probably put these on in
I'm
the
more
background.
int- I'm more interested in this than I was creeped out.
Yes,
I think there's more to get out of it.
I was not interested in watching any more of Creeped Out.
Yeah, I
Um,
didn't really care.
there was a few episodes of this that I was actually interested in. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right, Just Beyond. Good. That's a good show.
Yeah, do recommend.
Has I think it could be. I think it could be a little more challenging for its age group. I think it could have a little more of an edge, especially at the end of each episode. But for Disney horror anthology aimed at preteens, I think it gets there.
Yeah, I agree. It gets there. All right.
All right.
All right. Where
All
can they
right.
find
Let's
us?
call. They can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at RTSpiritspod. Check us out. Send us a message. We're happy to talk to you. If you have something that you think we should cover, let us know. We'd be happy to check it out.
All right. Thanks for joining
See you
us.
next time.
I'm Steve,
I'm Sam.
and have a good night.